Hello everyone, my name is Valerie and today I am going to be talking to you about the Austrian view on licensing. So before we begin, I just want to show you all a quick roadmap of the presentation. First we will be talking about what a license is, some interesting facts about licensing, the state's argument for licenses, the Austrian view of licensing, the effects it has on society, and as an example we'll be talking about educational licensing, and then I will show you my references. A license is best defined as a permit from an authority to own or use something, do a particular thing, or carry on a trade. Licensing is a subcategory of a regulation issued by the government because it grants an individual a particular right. Some people believe that being licensed and certified are the same thing. However, there is a difference. Being certified means that a person has completed a course of study, passed an exam, or otherwise met specified criteria for certification. A license, on the other hand, is permission to do something that is otherwise forbidden. In most cases, a license is required for engaging in certain activities. Being licensed grants a person permission to act, but being certified is a statement of qualification. In the U.S., there are approximately 65 occupations that require a certificate, while there are 800 occupations that require a license. Before we go on, here are 3 interesting facts about licensing. 1. In the 1950s, 4.5% of the workforce was in an occupation that required a state license to practice. However, according to the year 2000 census, it has grown to about 20%. 2. Between 1990 and 2000, unemployment growth was 20% higher in unregulated states. 3. Licensing has led to a difference in earnings. More than 50 occupations show that there is between a 4% to 17% difference in hourly earnings, which can be attributed to licensing. As previously mentioned, licensing is a type of regulation. There are 2 main arguments that states give in order to pass licensing requirements. The first argument is that it protects the consumer from low-quality products and services. By having certain standards to be licensed, the government can ensure that only certain people who have extensive training can practice within a particular field. Another argument that ties into this topic is consumer safety. By having businesses earn a license, the states feel that they can protect the consumer. The second argument is that licensing sets a quality standard for services. Not only does it protect the consumer from low qualities, but it also creates a standard for the industry. The states believe that the requirements for licensing will increase the quality of services. If everyone within an industry acquires the same license after receiving the same training and requirements, it creates a standard in the market. Keeping the previous slide in mind, I will now discuss the Austrian views on licensing. The first item is that licenses are used to protect the licensed. Usually, the only advocates for licensing within a field are people who already have a license. Licensing also restricts the supply of services because it creates a barrier to enter the market because some people may not be interested in becoming licensed in order to do a particular job. Since the government sets the requirements for obtaining a license, they override consumer preferences. It then becomes the government who decides which people get a license. A direct rebuttal to the second argument from the state is that the quality of service has nothing to do with licenses. A company can have a certain license to do business, but it does not mean that it provides the best quality service. Although Austrian economists are not a fan of licenses, there are a variety of different views. Some Austrians believe that licensing may be a good thing to protect people, while others believe that the government should have nothing to do with it at all. Licensing has many different effects on the society. The first effect is that licensing causes higher prices and revenues. The people who have obtained a license are able to charge a higher price, therefore increasing their revenue. On the other hand, people who have a low income prefer cheap prices even at the cost of a low quality, which they may not be able to get. The next effect is that higher prices due to licensing have caused more do-it-yourself projects. In the end, this could harm consumers because they are not properly trained to handle certain tasks. It can also harm certain industries because if more people are doing projects on their own, companies are not earning revenue. The third effect on society is that services are based on a political pool rather than consumer preferences, which I mentioned earlier on. The final effect that I will be discussing is that licenses act as a driver to push goods and services underground. People who are not licensed may still be performing services illegally from their own homes. An example of licensing that I will be using is educational licensing. High school teachers in the United States must be licensed in order to teach. As you may recall from the state's argument slide, one reason that they do this is to standardize quality. However, to what standard are these teachers actually being held to? As many people know, public schools are not as good as they used to be, which has fueled a growth in alternatives. Many parents are now homeschooling their children or sending them to private schools because they feel that their kids are getting a better education. However, some parents may not be able to take advantage of these alternatives due to lower incomes. The students that are going to these schools are not being taught how to think and learn, but how to pass an exam. Although not all schools are the same, certain high schools may actually be graduating students who are unskilled in basic subjects.
Mr. Ross? Mr. Voss, our textbook says that the discovery of penicillin was the most important biological discovery of the 20th century. But I read online that this actually encourages more potent strains of infection.
Yeah, that's some very advanced college stuff. Look, if you're done with your work, just go sit down and draw on your desk like Martinez.
But I want to...
This video, taken from the movie Here Comes the Boom, is an example of how most people today see public schools. Although it may be an exaggeration, there is still some truth behind it. In contrast to public high schools, universities and colleges do not require professors to be licensed. The college itself is actually what is being licensed. These institutional licenses come in the form of accreditations. Colleges and universities are actually licensed differently based on their accreditation. The accreditation is what creates certain requirements for professors to meet. For example, some accreditation requirements may state that all professors teaching at the school have a doctorate's degrees and must be published yearly. These professors are not licensed to teach, but they must still meet specific requirements to work at the school. The lack of teacher licenses actually allows there to be a free market. Students not only choose which college to go to, but they can choose which classes to take and from what professor. The students hold the professors accountable for their actions. Course evaluations are done every semester to show how well a professor is actually doing and can be used to be a determining factor as to whether or not professors keep their jobs. In conclusion, there is actually no direct answer to whether or not licensing is good or bad. The states believe that by protecting the consumers and providing a higher quality, they are helping the economy and the consumer. Austrians also vary on this topic. Some state that there should be no licensing requirements because it harms the economy. Others state that licensing is okay because it protects the consumer. In the end, each individual actually has to form their own opinion about it. However, even if you don't like licensing, it does not mean it will ever go away, and not having a license to perform certain services is illegal. Finally, here's a list of the references which I used for this video. Thank you all for watching.